Howdy folks, I'm glad so many of you guys appreciated the 200 F2 showdown video that I did earlier this week. It had a great response. I got lots of questions and I want to answer them for you guys. I'm really happy to see that you're all as excited about these new lenses as I am. There were some things that I could do a little bit better and some questions that I left uncovered. So let's run through it now. Now, before we run through it all in detail, I should say check out the first video. There's sample files that you can download below. If you're a Nikon Z shooter, you can check out my expert setup guide. I also have this new range of poly cameras merchandise. And if you haven't already, check out my Patreon. Takes you along behind the scenes on a bunch of different boudoir shoots that is not suitable for YouTube. Now, one question that I got from several of you is about, are these lenses focused by wire? Now, the Nikon VRII is not. That's an old school lens, so it's still old school construction, but the Sigma and the Laowa are both focused by wire. So when you're moving the focus ring, you're not actually moving the elements inside. It's all done via communication with the camera. So for some applications like astronomy, astrology, whatever, shooting the stars, I believe that's not ideal. In terms of build quality, I did touch on this before. I think the Nikon has unbeatable old school build quality, but it's so heavy it's unnecessary. The Sigma has unbeatable modern build quality, although I did see some of the gasket kind of, not the gasket, but like the padding on the inside of the hood already got a bit off on the lens after only using it a few days, so maybe that's not the best, but the switches, the build of the actual lens feels fantastic. The Laowa, it's going to be by far the cheapest, so I couldn't expect it's going to be at the Sigma's finishing. But right now it's, as I said, the focus is a little bit loose, and for me the aperture is a little bit loose as well. Great news, I actually heard from Laowa. They watched the video and the engineers are already working on addressing those little kind of physical issues that I mentioned on the lens itself. Now, one thing to note, the Sigma only takes 105mm front filters. The Laowa is also 105mm and it does have a filter thread, but it has a rear drop-in filter. Now, on my previous test, this had just a multi-coated UV filter in there, and my Nikon actually had a CPL in. So that would have played havoc with the final exposure. So next up, let's head in studio where I have controlled light, and I'm going to take a couple of shots at exactly the same settings so you can see what's the actual T-value variation between these lenses. So let's take a look at each of the shots here. It's a bit hard to see just from the file, but let's jump into Lightroom and have a better look. So I took a series of shots. I've taken one from each of the lenses. You can see which lens was used up there in the top left-hand corner. That's the Nikon, then the Laowa, then the Sigma, and that info is correct this time. But it's the histogram you really want to look at, top right. You'll note there is a slight variation. More to the right means brighter, more to the left means darker. And to my eye, the Sigma is slightly brighter than the other two, but it's not a big difference. When I increase the Laowa, which seems to be the darkest, by just 1/3 of a stop, it actually overtakes the Sigma. So I would say the Sigma is about 1/3 of a stop brighter than the Laowa and about 1/6 of a stop brighter than the Nikon. Not much difference really. Now, the most asked question I got from you guys is, do I think that Nikon are working on their own 200 F2? I can tell you from my heart, I have no idea. I have asked and been told, I don't think so, I don't know. To be honest, if I did know, I wouldn't even answer this question because I'd be under NDA and I wouldn't be able to disclose the fact that I knew something. But right now, I have no idea. I've heard no inkling that it's coming. And I don't follow the rumors. I know at some point they thought it was coming, then they realized, oh no, it's a Sigma. Oh, and maybe it's a Laowa as well. I hope that they will. I would love to see them give it a lightweight treatment and kind of planarize it so that it has that incredible lack of vignette. But right now, I don't know, and it's Nikon's loss because we've now got great options on the market. If they don't get one out soon, a lot of their target audience will have gone out and bought one, and it wouldn't make sense to then upgrade to another mirrorless 200 F2. Finally, image quality. Now, a lot of you asked what's my opinion on the image quality. Now, I give you the sample file so you can judge it for yourself. You can download those via my link tree. But in my opinion, The Nikon 202 VR2, I'm so biased. I have such great memories with this lens, and I think the image quality is unbelievable and the performance is unbelievable. Out of these three, definitely the focus was the best, no question. You can see the series of running shots we did with Honey. I find it hard to even compare any of the modern Z lenses to the output of this lens. It's just so good. That said, the Sigma in some regards I think was slightly sharper, but I don't know if it had as beautiful a contrast as the Nikon, which is so often the case with more modern lenses. The Laowa, at what I think is going to be like less than a third of what the Nikon costs, I think the image quality is acceptable, but from what I've seen, keeping in mind this is an unannounced prototype at this point, it's certainly not at the level of the Sigma. If it's going to be used at f2.8, f4, that kind of range, then you'll probably find it's plenty sharp. But my samples that I gave you to download wide open at f2 clearly showed that it isn't at the same kind of echelon as the Sigma and the Nikon. One thing to note though, in terms of beautiful bokeh, a lot of you pointed out in video, the bokeh on the Sigma took on quite a square shape, whereas the Nikon was perfectly circular despite only having 9 blades, and the Laowa was nice and circular as well. So kind of interesting that we're getting that sort of a result from the Sigma. Okay, now let's do a couple of focus breathing tests. First off, let's compare the same shot without moving the camera, me in the same position, just to see how the reproduction ratio changes. First up, this is the Laowa, number 1. Next up, here's the full frame on the Sigma, lens number 2. And finally, lens number 3, the Nikkor. Next up, let's do a focus pull test. This is the Laowa at infinity focus, and as I pull it back to nearest focus, quite a fair bit of breathing, but you'll see that isn't uncommon. Here we go with the Sigma focus test. A tram is pulled in, so apologies that frame has changed a bit. But now as I pull to closest focus, likewise, a lot of focus breathing. But it takes a lot more turns to get there than the Laowa. So that's closest, that's furthest. Closest, furthest. So I think that's all your questions answered for now, folks. If you haven't, check out the sample files, check out Patreon and my Nikon Expert Setup Guide. I'm packing right now to head off to Bhutan to run a tour there and catch up with my foster child, Sharab. Can't wait for that, so stay tuned for more content. Let me know what else you'd like to see tested, but I will be returning the lenses before I go on that trip. And, you know, later in September, I can address any questions that you guys have. Hope you found that useful. Cheers, guys.